Hey guys, it's Liv here, and in today's video, we're using the most random team in the world. Have you ever seen a team that has 2 Flutter Manes? What about a team that also has 2 Iron Hands and 2 Iron JUGULIS? Well, today we're going to get as close as possible to that because we're bringing the present day forms as well as the paradox forms of Hariyama, Misdreavus, and HYDREIGON. And if you guys enjoy this content, you want to see more, like and subscribe, and answer the comment question of the day. I've asked for the past forms, and I've asked for the future forms, but what's your favorite present-day form of all of the Paradox Pokemon? I know this might sound like a really random question, but among the 14 Paradox Pokemon, what is your favorite original form? And why? My favorite's probably Hariyama, in all honesty, though Misdreavus also has a special place in my heart. It's just a really good budget Pokemon that always is really good in lower tiers for a really good niche. But Hariyama is just such a menace offensively speaking. HYDREIGON also definitely makes the list, and same as Gardevoir. Like, those would definitely be the 4 in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down below. And with that said, let's break down the team. Now, I do have to preface, this is not actually my team. I'm going to try and find the creator of the team. I believe that I at least have the team that restructured the paste. I don't know a couple of these EV spreads at all, but I can at least go over a basic team function for them, so that's what I'm going to try and do today. First up, though, we do have none other than Hariyama. Now, this is just a max HP, max attack set. I kept the team exactly as is. Normally, you would probably want to go for Spadef because it helps a little bit more with the Armourouge Armor Cannon, but the spread in general isn't bad. It's good for just general bulk, and with Terra Dark, you're able to boost the knockoff damage, with Wide Guard being great for spreads like Torkoal Eruption, as this is a Trick Room function of the team, so we still want to be covered for stuff like Expanding Force, Armourouge, Trick Room, Torkoal Eruption, etc, etc. So this is a really good way around those. It even helps a lot with Flutter Mane Dazzling Gleam, which the counterplay for Flutter Mane isn't the best, but we have counterplay for Flutter Mane, technically speaking, at a base level. This is one of those options, though, which essentially the game plan would go by going for Wide Guard turn 1, hoping they don't click Moonblast into Hariyama, and then going for Trick Room into Terra Dark knockoff into Flutter Mane, and that works out pretty well. That's one of the ways we have. We have a few other methods, though. With the 29 speed, I forget what the 29 speed in this does. I think it's meant to just underpace Iron Hands by 1 point, if I'm going to be honest. Or like 0 speed base 50s in Trick Room. Well, not 0 speed, 0 EVs in 31 speed base 50s, which is fine. That's really just what happened to be on this team. Up next, though, we do have the Iron Hands. I can't lie, I didn't think my spread changed for a second, or my slide changed. Now, I will say I'm not really sure what the EVs are for on this Pokemon at all in any way, shape, or form. However, at the very least, this is a really good Trick Room breaker, with Elemental Punches plus Drain Punch being really good for breaking most Pokemon. For example, Ice Punch is an amazing way to break through stuff like a Moongus and Great Tusk. Drain Punch is great just to stab, and it's always a great recovery. Meanwhile, Thunder Punch is great for stuff like different water types in the tier. Trying to think of water types, because Dondozo you're not really going to break because of Sword Stance being neglected by Unaware. However, it still is really good for Terra Flying Mons. The point being is that this set of 3 attacks just in general hits really well, and with the Terra Grass you're able to get around stuff like Rage Powder Moongus as well as Spore Moongus, which is pretty valuable in my opinion. The Citrus Berry, while this is typically preferred in even HP, this set actually does have an odd HP. I'm not really sure why. Again, just took the team as is. We have HYDREIGON up next with max speed, max special attack. Really great at just being a good special breaker. Safety Goggles helps a lot with trying to avoid redirection as well as random spores. Meanwhile, we have the Terra Fire, which turns this into a really strong Fairy Resist, while also resisting Terra Fire on Sylveon. And we have the immunity to get around Terra Ground Sylveon as well, which is the type that's been running around a lot recently. With Snarl, we're able to drop the special attack on special attackers. Meanwhile, we have Draco and Dark Pulse for primary offensive options here. We have Iron JUGULIS with the speed boosting booster energy. Now, I will say I'm not sure why I had 236 special attack. I'm not sure what that's for specifically. However, with the speed boosting set as well, we're able to outpace a majority of the metagame. To put it in perspective, the 108 speed is actually really appreciated because this outpaces Pokemon like, for example, Garchomp even, which Garchomp still actually does decent play. Also stuff like a Spathra at +1, we're able to outpace that, which is good. Helps get around the Gravity Sandy Shocks cores with the Spathra and Sandy Shocks. This outpaces Sandy Shocks as a whole, speaking of, Great Tusk, etc, etc. So the speed tier is really appreciated in my opinion on JUGULIS. The typing as well is really good offensively speaking, and with Terra Flying we're able to boost our Air Slash damage, as we do have 2 different Dark types, so we don't need to boost the Dark type damage. Up next we do have Misdreavus with the Terra Steel. This helps us get a really good resistance to Flutter Mane, as in general, this resists Fairy while being neutral to Ghost, which is pretty valuable. It's also great for stuff like Goldengo, which would also, again, be a really terrifying option in the tier. Willis is great to just burn Pokemon. Physical attackers like Great Tusk and Iron Hands especially, it's really good at burning those, with Hex being a strong way to damage afterwards. Pain Split is great to get some HP back versus any sort of bulky options, and Trick Room is great in tandem with leading off with Hariyama. I lead with these two the majority of the games, and I actually find myself tearing Misdreavus a lot just to get around Flutter Mane leads, and overall it proves to be a very terrifying option. Finally, on the team, we do have Flutter Mane. This is just standard focus Sash Flutter Mane. Max speed to try and outpace opponents. It's a great option outside of Trick Room, of course. Meanwhile, with Shadow Ball, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleam, it hits a majority of the team really well. With Terra Fairy, we're able to get out of our weakness to opposing Flutter Mane, which is really cool. And yeah, overall, really solid piece. With that said, that's going to be the team. And hopefully you guys did enjoy it. And I'll see you guys in the battles. Peace out, guys. Hey guys, it's Liv here. In today's video, we're going to be using a team that I found actually pretty recently in a Limitless tournament. If you enjoy, of course, like and subscribe for more. With that said, we're taking on Wolfie's Perish Trap team to start. And this should be fairly easy, actually, in my opinion. I think the matchup's actually really good, which is one of the reasons I wanted to showcase this one. I found this way before Wolfie's team even became a thing, and I've been planning to make a vid for a while around it. And I just figured I'd save it for today. Looking at this, though, we're going to lead off with Iron Hands and Misdreavus. We're going to bring, well, not Hariyama and Misdreavus. We're going to bring Iron Hands, and I think I'm going to bring Flutter Mane as last one. I think it's got to be either Flutter Mane or JUGULIS, because they actually have a difficult time at breaking JUGULIS. Watch, no, I'm going to bring HYDREIGON. Am I? No, I'm going to bring... I think I'm going to bring JUGULIS. I'm not sure. I feel like realistically, any of these last three could have merit here. I think I'm going to go with the... JUGULIS. Nope. Oh my god, this is really difficult. I'm going with JUGULIS. JUGULIS should help with the Amoonguss at least, and it also helps with Goth. Goth, JUGULIS, and Goth, Amoonguss, and Flutter Mane, just considering that speed boost with booster energy is decent. And I can most likely go with just Trick Room until, like, the very end game. So that's what I'm going to bank off of. Good luck or fun to my opponent, though. I'm expecting a long game with this one, but honestly, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And let's get started. So we're taking on Palafin, Flutter Mane first. And there's Arcanine, Amoonguss, Scream, Tail, Gothitelle. Okay, so I am anticipating a switch here, which I'm perfectly okay with. What I think I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go for the... Let's see, so I could go for Fake Out in theory, but I don't think it really offers me anything. I think realistically what I actually need to do here, I need to click Knockoff into the Flutter Mane, and then I need to go for a Trick Room with my Misdreavus. I'm anticipating the Palafin to swap, so I don't really, so I don't really have a reason to burn it, in all honesty. Meanwhile, with the Flutter Mane spot, I'm going to hope that they target the Misdreavus here. They're going to bring in Arcanine, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind Arcanine coming in, because frankly, I don't really need the damage boost on Hariyama. This isn't really my win con here, actually, funny enough. If my opponent can believe that, obviously, you know, good on them, and if not, that's fine too. So, from here, what I'm actually going to proceed to do, I'm going to take out the Flutter Mane, because the Flutter Mane is a decent threat to my team, offensively speaking. It KOs my entire team, actually. And it's one of the reasons that I've been holding off on this team so long. I wanted to wait until Flutter Mane usage died a bit, and then, well, like, and I say died a bit, but then, realistically, I mean, it's still going to be a top mon. I realized, though, that, sadly, this thing's just here to stay. It's literally ranked number 1 on the ladder right now for a reason. So, with that said, though, we're going to go for Knockoff. And now Knockoff plus Hex should take out Flutter Mane. I have no concern, actually, with this mon being taken out here. Realistically, even if they swap, they're going to switch into something that's going to take a substantial amount of damage. So, I'm pretty okay with this, in all honesty. They're going to bring in a Amoonguss. Okay, so no Screamtail or Gothitelle. Really huge, actually, because I brought Fighting Spam. So, the fact that the best thing that they can really damage me with is the Amoonguss is pretty decent. I can't lie. What I'm going to proceed to do here, I'm going to proceed to go for a close combat into the Arcanine. And then I'm going to go for a... I think I'm going to go for a... I could go for a close combat in Arcanine, and then I think I'm going to go for a Will-O-Wisp on the Amoonguss spot. Now, I'm anticipating a Spore. I'm not really sure into what Pokemon, but ideally, I actually want to let the... Well, actually, no, it obviously can't be into Hariyama, which I'm perfectly okay with that, actually. It's not really a huge concern of mine. The issue is that Arcanine being around means I can't safely switch in Iron Hands to avoid the Spores, because obviously with the Iron Hands, while I can Terra Grass and avoid it, the Arcanine could easily just burn me, and that's still a big problem. So we're going to proceed to burn the Amoonguss. They're actually going to go for Spore on Flutter Mane, perfectly fine. I don't really mind this too much. And then Arcanine revealed Extreme Speed. Oh, you know what? Right, because I know the whole team, but still obviously not bad to note these things down. We're going to switch here. We're going to switch out Flutter Mane. Or not Flutter Mane, Misdreavus into Iron Hands. And then I'm going to go for close combat into the Arcanine spot. Even with the -1, we should actually still do a substantial amount of damage. In fact, actually, just to be safe, I'm going to go for Knockoff into the Arcanine spot. Because either we knock off the goggles and we'll do some good damage that way, or plan B, which is my favorite portion of this plan personally, is the Arcanine ends up just going for E-Speed. Well, actually, no, so it's either A, we hit the Arcanine pretty well, or B, the Amoonguss goes for Rage Powder, and I'm fine with either one. I don't know why I said that was my favorite part of the play, and Amoonguss already got knocked off. It's not going to really matter a ton. Okay. So this is still fine in all honesty. Realistically, what I'm going to end up doing here, I'm going to go for the Terra Grass. And the Terra Grass should allow me to just KO the Arcanine before it becomes a problem. Meanwhile, I'm going to go switch out of my Hariyama into Misdreavus here. This should avoid any sort of E-Speed shenaniganry, but it also, more importantly, will help with just trying to make sure that we reset our defense drops, which will be decent, especially if I do reset Trick Room later on. So, by going for this, I can make sure that we not only KO the Arcanine before it can intimidate us again, but I'm also going to make sure that I avoid any sort of Rage Powder, which, in my opinion, I think is a little bit more valuable here. Being able to avoid the Rage Powder will be huge because I could essentially use Iron Hands to just try and KO their entire team, especially once I get the FLUTTER MANE and the Misdreavus back in the field. They're going to switch out here, perfectly acceptable, and my opponent is going to proceed to bring in, I think this is Palafin? No, it's FLUTTER MANE. Okay, shows how much I know how to read. For what it's worth, I could have just went for like a Thunder Punch here, and I think Thunder Punch would have been the safer play. They actually have no switch into Thunder Punch, so that probably should have been my play, but it's still not a big deal. Moongus would essentially need to go for Palm Puff to get any sort of super effective damage on me. Meanwhile, Misdreavus and FLUTTER MANE has no way to do so. They're going to go for Protect, okay. And my opponent's team is fairly worn at this point. I mean, we've seen the Arcanine at least pretty chipped. Meanwhile, I'm going to be able to, until Twisted Dimensions return, that's fine. We'll try and get up a Trick Room, but I don't see it working out. It's still not a huge concern, though, because I'm actually just going to go for a Thunder Punch and try and hit the FLUTTER MANE. Now, I'm anticipating that they're going to take out my Misdreavus because it's good speed control for my opponent. Well, for myself, I should say. That's really good against my opponent's team. However, if my opponent does decide to just go and take out my Iron Hands, or at least attempt to get some good damage on my Iron Hands, I'm still okay with this, actually. We're a fairly SPDF SITRUS set, so I'm pretty fine with this. I know for a fact that Misdreavus will actually take this hit. We can take a single one. We cannot take two. We can take a single hit. So this damage into FLUTTER MANE should be decent. We'll get about half off, which honestly is fine. I'm pretty okay with this. And we managed to get up a Trick Room anyway, which is perfect. This essentially means that we're able to get off a free attack on whatever I want, actually. And I'm going to attack the... I'm going to go for Hex on the FLUTTER MANE here. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for a... I think I want to go for a Drain Punch into the Arcanine. Well, actually, no. I'm going to go for a Thunder Punch in the Arcanine. Just KOing the Arcanine will obviously be some really good way to... So going for Thunder Punch here, it covers for Palafin coming in as well randomly, which it does not seem like my opponent did. That's perfectly fine. The Amoonguss still obviously does have to... Okay, so they're going to go for Protect. I don't really care. While they've been going for a lot of protecting around my team, I'm still fine with this in all honesty because, again, they can't ever actually stop this. And now that they've brought in Amoonguss, I essentially get the very guaranteed Thunder Punch, which is really valuable. Despite the fact that obviously I can get Spored on Misdreavus, it's not a huge concern because that Thunder Punch is going to go off and something will take a ton of damage, whether it's the Arcanine that can no longer intimidate or the Palafin that's going to take like at least half, or even if it's the Misdreavus, not the Misdreavus, the FLUTTER MANE that just dies. I don't really care, but something is going to take a ton of damage. But essentially this should at least guarantee a KO, or if at worst case, it guarantees that my opponent no longer has the freedom to make the switch, which I'm fine with that as well. Realistically, my opponent also is going to have to just start taking more damage, which will be decent. And despite the Amoonguss having regen, that's the only mon with actual sustain here. Nothing else in this team has sustain in any way, shape, or form. I guess the Pollen Puff. Okay, so Pollen Puff does help, I guess, for what it's worth. But this is still going to take a substantial amount of damage here. Like, I don't think it's going to OHKO, but it'll do some good damage. Sadly, though, this does open me up to getting burned, which is actually really annoying. But I can still Swords Dance around this, and that's not a huge deal. Realistically, their only way to clear my stat drops, my stat boost, I should say, would be with, it's just with, I'm trying to think. So really, they only, actually, also, I'm bringing in Hariyama, because they're not going to go for Pollen Puff here, they're going to go for Spore, and I think they're going to go for Flare Blitz. Or maybe they'll go for Protection. Either way, I'm going for Swords Dance, and I'm going for Hariyama. This should be a decent play, and what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to proceed to go into... I'm going to go into Misdreavus on this turn. They're going to go for Protect, it's fine. Because I'm anticipating that they'll probably leave my Misdreavus alone here. Meanwhile, they'll probably also just go for E-Speed, which should be perfect. I get a free turn with that. And this will allow me to get up another set of Swords Dances, which should be decent. Okay. So looking at this, I think what I'm going to proceed to do here I'm gonna go for, yeah, I'm gonna go for, actually, I could always just go for an attack here. I think I'm gonna just go for a close combat here. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go for one more Swords Dance, and this should help with just doing as much damage as possible here. Now, essentially, if Arcanine goes for E-Speed and it values taking out Hariyama, that's fine. I'm gonna have a boosted up Iron Hands, which will be doing more damage than it was doing pre-burn anyway. Meanwhile, if my opponent decides to value taking out my Iron Hands, I'm gonna get close combat off, and Arcanine just dies. So I'm fine with this either way. Now, I guess if Pollen Puff for some reason does KO my Hariyama, then that's like the worst case scenario here. But I think I'm still okay with this, personally. I am really curious, I guess, if Pollen Puff would even KO. I don't think it will, personally. Mungus isn't exactly an offensive mon. They're going to switch out Arcanine. This is perfect. Meanwhile, my opponent is going to go into Flutter Mane. Okay, fuck. Alright, well, that's not great. And then they're going to get a Protect off. That's also not great. Okay. Well, it's still not a huge deal, despite the fact that I could have probably went for knockoff here. We're still in a not terrible position, because my opponent essentially now has to deal with my Hariyama being fairly boosted. Well, fairly healthy, I should say. On top of the fact that my Iron Hands is fairly boosted now. And I can definitely guarantee just another attack off. Or another Swords Dance off, I should say. So I'm going to go for a knockoff here just in case they're valuing Iron Hands. And then I'm going to go for one more Swords Dance just in case they swat. And then from here, I'll probably start ending up trying to win with Jugulis. I think the Jugulis should have enough field position at this point to where really the only thing that can even kind of threaten it is Palafin, which I'm perfectly fine with. My opponent is going to switch out of Mungus, probably into Arcanine just to try and drop my offenses, which I'm okay with. Yep, Arcanine is going to come in here. Meanwhile, the Flutter Mane is probably going to just go for Gleam if I had to guess. I'm pretty sure this Flutter Mane is Gleam. Yeah, they're actually going to go for Moonblast. Oh, they're going to go for it into Iron Hands. That's fine, they'll activate SITRUS and Flutter Mane should be gone. Even with the -1. That should KO Flutter Mane, which is really good for me in all honesty. We're going to get the Sword Dance off on Iron Hands too, which is also really amazing. Because essentially what I could do here, I can go for Ice Punch into the... I can go for Ice Punch into Amoonguss when that inevitably comes in. Meanwhile, I'll go for... Actually, what I'll probably end up doing... Let's see. So, Flare Blitz and Arcanine probably won't KO us. We're fairly bulky. What I'm going to guess that comes in is we're going to see... We're going to probably end up seeing the... It's probably the Amoonguss that comes in, which I'm okay with. I'm very okay with that. We want Amoonguss to be slower, which I'm fine with. We'll go for Jugulis. We'll go for Jugulis here. Yeah. And I'm going to go for... Palafin's actually going to come in. Okay, Palafin coming in is great as well. Because essentially what I can do... with Palafin in, I actually do have a pretty free turn here. Because all I need to do, actually, I just need to attack the Arcanine. With the Drain Punch going to Arcanine, I should have enough bulk. Let me double check my stat boost, actually. So, yeah, I'm at +4, so this essentially is still boosted up more than my opponent would have done before. I'm going to go for Dark Pulse into Arcanine, and then I'm going to go for Thunder Punch into Palafin. I'm going to anticipate that I'm going to get Jet Punch. They're actually going to go for Protect, which I'm okay with that. We've revealed Protect on Palafin. And then Arcanine is going to take the Dark Pulse, which is really good for us. I think they choked that away, I can't lie. Because I think if they dual priority my Jugulis, that was probably their best chance of winning this. Meanwhile, now I actually get a very free Thunder Punch into Palafin. That's completely unrestricted. And I can go for Protect on Jugulis just to guarantee they'll have the Pokemon around. Though at the same time, I could also just go for like a Snarl here. Which Snarl should be helpful for just trying to weaken the damage Amoonguss will do to Iron Hands. So that also is pretty valuable. Yeah, we're going to go for Snarl here. And I'm going to go for Thunder Punch. Palafin should definitely die to this. I can't imagine that Palafin's going to take what's essentially... I think this counts as like a +1 hit. Let's see. I know we're not exactly the most offensive set, but we still have 76 Adamant, which is pretty decent. Let's see. 76 Palafin. We are a burned Palafin. Burned Iron Hands, but +4. And then Palafin is 236. I think it was like 4 in Fizz Def. Yep, the Terra Water, that's fine. That's honestly really fine. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that we KO. Yeah, Thunder Punch guarantees the KO, actually. It 100% guarantees the KO. Oh wait, that's +6. We're +4. Alright, well even still, I mean, we still basically KO. And also, I forgot I clicked Snarl here, which means it will definitively KO, actually, on the Palafin. They're going to Wave Crash me. That's perfectly fine. Wave Crash shouldn't KO. Yep, perfect. Meanwhile, they're going to be taking recoil, which again, even more so solidifies this. I think my opponent made a lot of misplays in the second game, actually. There was a situation where they could have won that, but, I mean, I won't act like I could talk. I misplay all the time in these videos, especially as of recent. Sadly, though, this game has taken like 15 minutes, so we're definitely only going to get in one more game today. But, hey, honestly, I'll take that we're starting in a win. Maybe we can even go 2-0 today. Can we go 2-0? Oh, that'd be so fucking good if we can go 2-0. My opponent's going to forfeit here, by the way. They objectively cannot win against... They can't even claim a KO. Yep, battle was canceled. Perfect. Okay. So we're 15 minutes in. Unless we get some obnoxiously quick game, this is definitely going to be only one more game. So I'll see you guys in what's probably going to be our final game. Peace out, guys. Moving on to game number 2. I guess technically our last one. We're fighting a Quackleval, Iron Moth, Arboliva, Garganackle, Goldango, Gothitelle. Okay. So looking at this, I think that my lead is definitely going to be... I don't know if I want to really go for Trick Room here. At the same time, Iron Hands definitely does benefit from it. They do actually also struggle to take out Iron Hands, which is good for us. I'm going to proceed to go for Misdreavus. And then I'm going to go for Hariyama. I'm going to go for Iron Hands. And I think the last one's going to be Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane as a win con should be decent, in my opinion. Overall, it's going to be really beneficial post Trick Room. I don't know. I kind of want to go with Jugulis again. It's weird because I never actually bring Jugulis, but I'm 2 for 2 on bringing it today, and I think I'm gonna bring it. I don't know. I think I'm gonna bring a Jugulis. Yeah, because Jugulis will just match up better against Goldango because I don't have to worry about the super effective Make It Rain. It'll match up better. Well, it'll match up as well against Gothitelle. It's gonna match up better against Arboliva. It's gonna match up better against Garganackle, but only by like a slim margin. The speed boost will be great because if that's not speed boosting Iron Moth, we can outpace it, which is, it's decent because my stabs are also unresisted by it, and I can go for Snarls, which will be decent. Yeah, like objectively just matches up better against everything, which is so weird because I want you guys to know, of my entire team, Jugulis has come to by far the least amount of games in testing for this vid, which is insanity to think about. We're going to go for the Terra Steel, and I'm going to go for Trick Room here. Terra Steel is just solely to guarantee that we get it off. And then I'm going to proceed to go for a knockoff into the Gothitelle. Because Gothitelle could actually be kind of annoying on this team comp with stuff like Heal Pulse, for example. Now, I do anticipate that Gothitelle actually fakes out my Hariyama, and Goldango goes for a Nasty Plot here. Which I'm okay with that. But the Terra Steel is mostly just to get around either A, a spread Make It Rain, which is pretty good against my team powering Wide Guard. Or B, the fact that they might just go for Shadow Ball, and if there's specs that could be threatening on Misdreavus, actually. So Gothitelle is going to reveal Fake Out, and they are going to go for Shadow Ball. So this is exactly why we made the play, because now we can actually guarantee Sponge that. For what it's worth, Goldango would have taken that, would not have been able to KO this anyway, but it was still something that I did not want to risk. Okay, so let's see. Looking at this, I think that my play here is always to go for, I kind of want to go for Pain Splitter and Gothitelle into knockoff. I could also just go for like a Hex into knockoff, and that would also be valuable. I'm actually going to go for Hex and a knockoff into Goldango, because despite the fact that Gothitelle has some good utility against this team, realistically, the fact that everything else, in my opinion, ends up doing pretty bad outside of Trick Room, I think will be more beneficial to the team overall. Because, for example, if Gothitelle is really the only Trick Room option here that's actually viable, the one exception would be if well, actually, no, that's a lie. Goldango is probably the least valuable outside of Trick Room, but at the same time, it's still something that I'd rather just take out because it is a good offensive threat here. Especially with Terrastal, this is just a decent piece against my team. We've managed to KO the Goldango, which is already huge. Goldango being gone, it's one mon less to worry about. Now, there is still some concern. For one, Arboliva could actually be kind of a threat, but Arboliva has a little bit of issues. For example, getting off a Hyper Voice against my team will be kind of bad for it, because it can never actually manage to do that. However, my way of making sure it never does that means that I need to click Wide Guard, which means I don't have a great way to KO it either. They are going to go into Arboliva, that's fine. I'll have to let it take the Hyper Voice in all honesty, which means that I'm going to go for Will-O-Wisp into Gothitelle, just so I can do more with Hex later on, and then I'm going to go for Close Combat into Arboliva. Now, if my opponent decides to Terrastal here, that's fine. I think the scariest Terra type this could go for would be Fairy, but Fairy isn't that concerning either. And that's kind of an issue for this Pokemon, actually. Because I have Levitate and Terra Steel, Arboliva would have to essentially go for Terra Fire, Terra Blast to actually touch my Misdreavus, which is great. It's such a great benefit to this. My opponent's going to bring Garganackle. Okay, so there's no Moth and there's no Quackleval. That's honestly fine. This is pretty fine for me. They are going to Terra. Now, I'm curious if they're going to go for Terra Fire, because I think objectively any other Terra type against my team is pretty bad. They're going to go for Terra Fairy. That's Fairy, right? Yeah, that's Fairy. Okay. Actually, I would say bad, but this is actually pretty good for the... This is pretty good for everything that's not the... It's not the Misdreavus. However, the fact that they're opting to not boost like a throat spray or something is pretty good for me. They'll still take a lot of damage from close combat just because of the fact this isn't exactly the most Phys Def Pokemon. They're Life Orb, which is fine. Okay. So that's still pretty good. Again, all of this is pretty fine for me, actually. Looking at this, I can proceed to go into... I kind of want to go into... How many turns Trick Room up? I think there's only one more turn to Trick Room up, because let's see. So it was Protect and Knock Off. No, there should be 2 more turns to Trick Room up. Okay. That's still fine. Alright. So I need to click Wide Guard here, essentially. Which Wide Guard I'm fine with. And then I'm going to go for the Burn into Arboliva. This should essentially guarantee that I am going to get more damage off with Hex than Arboliva, which should be good. Meanwhile, I can then go for Hex plus the... I can go for Hex plus the Protect on Jugulis, which should be beneficial against Arboliva in general if you're trying to take it out. Now, the grassy terrain is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, it is good for my... It's good for my Iron Hands, at least, which is something. I'm trying to think of what other mons would be good for, but it's probably not good for much. Looking at their comp as well, their team is actually fairly weak to Jugulis plus Hands, so it's definitely going to be a really strong win con for me. Because Hands can essentially just set up for free on Garganacl and try and take it out that way. Meanwhile, I can just utilize my Jugulis for taking out Gothitelle, which will be good. My opponent's going to go for Salt here, which will do some decent damage, actually. This could be pretty scary, because I'm trying to think of how my opponent actually gets around this. Alright. We actually clicked Hex on accident, but in hindsight, that works out well for us. Because essentially, I can just click the Hex plus... I'm going to go for Hex plus Close Combat here. Because all I really need... Well, no. No. Nope. I'm going to go for Hex plus Wide Guard. Now, I do anticipate that my opponent will end up going for... I anticipate that my opponent will probably go for Salt Cure into Hariyama plus a Dazzling Gleam, just in case I don't click Wide Guard here. Because either it's free damage on Misdreavus, or it's really good just in general to try and get the spread move off. The point being is that regardless that Hariyama should die to this turn, I can't imagine that they wouldn't just go for that. Though I guess the only other logical explanation would be that maybe they go for Protect on Garganacl, and they go for like a dual Protect sort of thing here. Which dual Protect is also fine. It would take out Misdreavus, which is kind of annoying for me, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Because I could still actually just go for Iron Hands here, and then go for Wide Guard plus like a Ice Punch or something. They're going to actually withdraw Garganacl. Now, withdrawing Garganacl works out really well for me as well, because this means that they actually, unless they go for single target with Arboliva, guarantee cannot put any real offensive pressure here. Okay, so this is fine. Okay, so they're going to go for Dazzling Gleam. This should mean that I'm actually able to guarantee take out my opponent. I want to say that Hex should guarantee the KO at this point. Worst case scenario, even if it doesn't guarantee the KO, they'll die to their next Life Orb hit, which is good. They actually take nothing from that. Holy shit, okay. I think I'm gonna go for another Wide Guard here. I'm gonna go for a Wide Guard plus... let's see, so I'm gonna go for Wide Guard plus Pain Split. Though I think... Oh, we just die anyway. Okay, that's fine. So I'm just gonna... I'm trying to think of what I go for here. Well, I think I definitely try and stall at the Trick Room. I think objectively I try and stall at Trick Room, because I think it works out better for me. Oh, perfect. Trick Room's gone anyway. Okay. So I'm going to go into Jugulis here. And I'm going to go for... So I think they're going to fake out on my Hariyama. Which actually, I have a guaranteed good play here. Because I don't even actually need to go for the fake out, funny enough. All I need to actually do is I just need to go for Air Slash to Arboliva. And then I need to go for Wide Guard. If they fake out my Jugulis, that's fine. Because by going for fake out on Jugulis, they cannot stop the Wide Guard from going up. And if they go for fake out on Hariyama, that's fine. Jugulis should be able to KO the Arboliva. So that's really good for me. And then I can bring in Iron Hands next turn and start trying to break through their team, which will, again, work out really well. So we're going to go for that. That should ultimately be my best set of plays here. Now, I think that, yep, they're going to go for fake out on Hariyama. That's fine. Arboliva should be taken out, which is good for me, because at this point, Gothitelle will not be able to switch out and get another fake out, which also works out really well. Meanwhile, the Garganacl cannot actually beat my team. They're essentially just left down to Garganacl plus Gothitelle, which is really okay, because all I need to do is just go for Dark Pulses into Gothitelle. Meanwhile, I can just go for the Swords Dance and Iron Hands, and one Swords Dance and Iron Hand should be enough. Gothitelle can't take me out with the Psychic, And Garganacl just starts getting Drain Punch from there because they burned through their Terrastal already. Now, I don't think that we'll KO with Dark Pulse either, but I'm okay with this. They're going to go for Protect on Garganacl. That's fine. Because now Garganacl is going to take way too much damage from a Drain Punch here. And Gothitelle is already at below half. Now, Citrus will pop, which is perfectly acceptable. Okay. And meanwhile, my Iron Hands actually outpaces Gothitelle, which is another really good thing to note. Now, they could be going for Trick Room, which if they're going for Trick Room, I don't really care. Because realistically, nothing actually changes from this. In fact, I think I might even go as far to say that my Iron Hands might even underpace this in Trick Room. Well, okay, so we're neutral Iron Hands. Gothitelle. So Gothitelle could, in theory, assuming that it would essentially need to be like a perfect 0 IV set. Because, well, 0 IV ties. 0 IV ties. They need to be 0 IV and minus speed, which they probably are for what it's worth. But I'm going to go for Drain Punch into Garganacl. They've already burned through a Protect this turn, which is good for me. They'll go for Salt Cure, which is fine. Salt Cure does objectively no damage to me, actually. Meanwhile, I'm going to be able to get up a +2 Drain Punch. We do actually underpace Gothitelle, which is huge. We've already KO'd the Garganacl, which means that unless if Gothitelle is a way to actually damage my Jugulis, they guarantee lose this game, which is really good for me. So at this point, all I need to do is just click one more Dark Pulse, and Gothitelle loses. They're Foul Play anyway. They're not even Psychic, which is really good. They can't KO my team. So what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to click Drain Punch. Like, come on, I got to click the Drain Punch here. In fact, I'm going to click Drain Punch plus Air Slash. My two worst ways of damaging this Pokemon. Now, if they click Protect, it doesn't really matter. They're going to cancel the battle. So we have the 2 battles canceled to the team. They cannot beat this team. No one can beat this team. This is the team they don't want you using on Series 2 ladder because it's unbeatable. It goes 3-0 and then proceeds to lose out the rest of the games, which is fine. That's all it needs to do. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this more casual Team for Friday. If you did and you want to see more content like this, like and subscribe. Make sure to subscribe as well because tomorrow not only do we have a tier list for every Series 2 Pokemon, but we also have a members only video breaking down my team that I used at Orlando Regionals in case you guys are interested in the team report, with future weeks going over special laddering challenges. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow. Oh, right, channel members. Shout out to channel members, of course, being Josh K Ultra Player, Mia, Zeke Zero, Matt O'Shea, Nox Nocturnal, and Koemi. Oh, and Slade. Of course, make sure you guys hit the channel member button. And yeah, thank you guys for your support. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, guys.